Well, price targets and profit objectives are not completely objective. It would be nice if they were, so that every time we took a trade, we had a formula for the objective for that trade and the price target for the trade. But unfortunately, there's not a simple formula. However, there are minimum guidelines to consider when making a minimum price objective. And it's pretty much simple and very logical on how we'd identify what should be the minimum target for any trend or counter trend. When there is no Elliott wave pattern to make an end of wave price target, the minimum objective is when an APP or alternate price projection is near a retracement which creates a price support resistance zone. As we learned in a prior chapter, that when we have a alternate price projection and a retracement fall very near each other, that's a high probability support resistance zone that the market is likely to reach. Now, when there is an Elliott wave pattern with a minimum or typical end of wave price, the minimum objective for the trend or counter trend is the minimum or the typical end of wave price target zone. Now, some end of wave targets do not have both a minimum or a typical end of wave target, but one of those two is what we always consider would be the probable target before that wave pattern is complete. And of course, in a prior chapter, you learned all about end of wave target zones, as well as when there's no wave pattern support resistance zones. And in this module, you're going to learn a little bit more on how we look at those for objectives for any trend or counter trend, and for our minimum targets for any trend or counter trend. On the page on the right, we had a decline in this market, an impulse down, which was probably a 1 or a low. We had a correction into the 62% retracement, which coincided with a bearish reversal in the indicator, which probably completed that wave 2 or B correction. Now, there's a big difference in what the target would be, whether that's a wave 2 or a wave B high. And without more information, we really can't discern which one of those two it would be. So we always go under the assumption, what's the minimum objective? Well, if it's a wave B high, where would a wave C typically go to price-wise? Well, around that 676 to 673 zone includes the 100% alternate price projection, which would be the typical wave C target, and the 78.6% retracement, which is typically the maximum retracement for a correction. So if it were this market were just making an ABC correction, that would be the ideal target to complete a wave C low. Now, if it's making a wave 3, it's going to go down and probably exceed that February low and continue quite a bit lower. But right now, we're not going to make that decision. We're just identifying the probable minimum target if this market continues down and if it's completed a corrective high. So that would be our minimum target zone we would identify if this market continued lower as anticipated. And that would be an area where we'd be looking to take partial profits on a short trade.